Welcome to Get Rich Education. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold, with your listener questions today. What will happen to you when real estate crashes really badly? College town investing, home inspections, scarcity versus abundance, and an invitation to meet me on our upcoming Tampa, Florida real estate field trip today on Get Rich Education. How would you like to look at one of America's top real estate investment markets up close and personal with me, Keith Weinhold? Let's do this together in Tampa Bay, Florida on our Tampa real estate field trip, October 10th to 12th, 2019. New residents have been flocking to Tampa for decades with its warm climate, low cost of living, zero state income tax, and access to some of the nation's best beaches. Enjoy an opening night meet and greet with me and fellow Get Rich Education listeners just like you, classroom instruction from me and my Tampa team. Finally, we'll tour the investor advantage neighborhoods and walk cash flowing property. I'll even treat you to lunch. There are no properties for sale on the tour. If you're interested, you can contact the provider later. Get all the details at realestatefieldtrip.com. It's Get Rich Education's Tampa field trip, October 10th to 12th. Space is limited, and when it's gone, it's gone. We've even kept the cost down for you. So get all the details and register for the event at realestatefieldtrip.com. I look forward to meeting you personally in terrific Tampa. Get started at realestatefieldtrip.com. Finally, Total Control Financial gives you checkbook control of your 401k and IRA money to invest in real estate. It's time to get your retirement money into your own checking account, but you've got to avoid the little-known tax that you'll pay with any self-directed IRA. Instead, it's time for the QRP. Learn more and get your free copy of the QRP book by text messaging QRP in all capital letters to 72,000.
You're listening to the show that has created more financial freedom than nearly any show in the world. This is Get Rich Education.
Welcome to GRE, from Colombo, Sri Lanka to Columbia, South Carolina, and across 188 nations worldwide. I'm Keith Weinhold. This is Get Rich Education. Thanks for being here, but you're not here for me. You're here for you. We're discussing your listener questions today. The first question comes from Damien in Ventura, California. Damien asks, Keith, you've discussed before how to weather a recession with real estate investing. But what if things get worse and we have an all-out depression, like the Great Depression again? I know that real estate gives you more sides to play than other investments, but with you being an advocate of loans and leverage, what do you have to say about a depression? Love your show, Damien. Great question, Damien, because even if you think this event is unlikely anytime soon, it's still worth discussing. So, yes, we need to descend into a darker place to start the show here, and then we'll come out of it. First of all, what is an economic depression? It is a long, sustained downturn in the economy, perhaps a decade or more. It's surely longer and more severe than the Great Recession we were in 10 to 12 years ago. This depression sees large increases in unemployment. Credit lines of all types start to go away. Price deflation and bank failures occur. Buyers demand fewer goods and services, so this means businesses have a hard time staying in business. Real GDP decline could be greater than 10%. Depressions cause a lot of pain for a lot of people. The United States Great Depression began in 1929, marked by the giant stock market crash then. And after the Dow Jones crash, the market was down for so long that it took the Dow 25 years just to get back to even again where it had been in 1929. You heard me correctly, 25 years just to get back to even. The unemployment rate hit about 25%. My great-grandparents lived through the Great Depression, and as a boy, I still remember when they had me try pretzel soup, pretzels soaked in hot milk, served inside a bowl, because they're the type of meals that they ate back in Reading, Pennsylvania during the Great Depression. Well, what could happen to your real estate if there's a depression today? Well, some not so good things would likely happen, but you're probably better off than being invested in stocks or mutual funds or a lot of other things, and I'll tell you why. It's worth adding here that Steve Forbes famously said that everyone thinks that they're a long-term disciplined investor until the market goes down. In a depression, again, not a recession, but a depression, expect real estate value loss, real estate income loss, stock value loss, and you could see a gold value gain. Now, for properties that you already own, if we entered a depression, if the value goes down, you don't care so much as long as you can sustain the rent and the income. But because we have deflation, meaning the value of the dollar has more purchasing power and it takes fewer dollars to buy the same thing, we'll say that you have to drop your $1,000 rent on your property all the way down to $700. That is a lot. That's 30%. I know that's hard to imagine because people still need a place to live, but we're painting a dismal picture here. So then on the cash flow, you go from, say, plus $200, and now your cash flow would be down to minus $100. That's $100 of negative monthly cash flow that you've got now. How long can you hold on that way? Maybe a little while, maybe a long while. Well, what do you think that the Fed is going to do about all of this? 10 or 12 years ago, you saw how drastically they cut interest rates to bring us out of a recession. They cut them down to zero and kept them there for a really long time. Well, they would tend to lower interest rates with an even greater urgency in a depression. Interest rates go lower in a depression, and you're going to have the opportunity to refinance, although you might feel some pain first. See, you can kind of alter your deal. You can bring your cash flow back up that way. Well, let's descend further into darkness and say that a refinance did not work out for you either. And we'll say that you couldn't weather the negative cash flow storm. You're done. Then you could even let your property get foreclosed upon. I used to think that I'd never let myself get foreclosed upon no matter what. And by the way, I never have been. I've never even missed a payment in my life. But I used to say that I wouldn't let myself get foreclosed upon for ethical reasons, because when I signed the mortgage papers, I said I'd pay, so I will. Well, you know what? I changed my thinking on that a long time ago. Maybe you will too when you realize that your mortgage loan paperwork, your contract, it says either pay the mortgage or give us the collateral. That's what it says. Well, then you'll give them the collateral. That's all your contract says. Now, besides lowering interest rates, in a depression, the Fed might try to pump money into the economy with QE cycles like they did 10 plus years ago. But will that money trickle down into Main Street? I don't know, because it hardly did after 2009 and following those QE cycles. But see, the Fed can still find ways to get money directly into your hands. I don't know if you remember when President George W. Bush sent what he called a tax refund check to every American just kind of out of the blue. That was more than 15 years ago when we were in a recession. I still remember getting my check in the mail. It was $600. I remember it because it was such an unusual occurrence. Well, that right there is how money gets into the system. That will stave off deflation and create inflation. So that's what can happen in a depression to properties that you already own. Now, in a depression, what about new real estate purchases that you consider making? Well, now properties are going to be cheaper. Think about your existing properties. Now, labor is going to be cheaper too. Remember, many people are unemployed in a depression. So on your existing properties, this is a great way for you to make an addition or improvements onto your property. And that could be another way for you to get out of a negative cash flow situation if a depression ever got so bad that it created that to happen. See, this is really a major point here. You, as a real estate investor, have maintained control. You can act. You can improve your properties or refinance your properties. You're in control of the operations. With stocks, if they lose 50% to 70% in a depression, you're just sunk. you're not going to improve your stock share price yourself because you don't have control of those companies' operations. Now, a depression is also going to be more forgiving to you if you're invested in a landlord-friendly state. Because look, in a depression, remember, unemployment becomes really high and you're going to be more likely to have to evict your now unemployed tenant. Well, how is that going to be for you if you have rentals in California where it might realistically take 9 months to evict your unemployed tenant? You'll have 9 months of zero rent income while you're waiting to get them out. That is just another reason we avoid the coastal markets. The numbers don't work there anyway, even in good times. So yes, you'll be better off in those states in, again, the Midwest and South, where you can get a more timely eviction in places like Texas, Arkansas, Indiana, Ohio, Georgia, Florida. In a depression, this becomes more important than ever. So we've been talking about what happens to your investment in a Great Depression and what you can do about it and how you can best be protected against it. Thanks for the question, Damien. All of those scenarios are not good for the real estate investor, but it's not as bad as stocks that can lose 50 to 70%. Remember, just a 50% loss means that a 100% gain is necessary to get back to even, and now you know why we invest in stable markets. And with stocks, you just don't have that control like you do with owning your own real estate. There is actually something worse than a depression for real estate investors. You have any idea what that is? Yeah, it's actually worse than a depression for real estate investors. I can think of a worse scenario. That is a population decline. The cause of that is typically sub-replacement fertility rates or emigration. Those things have happened recently in some parts of the world, like Japan, Greece, and Spain, even Detroit. A massive war or a terrible plague could also wipe out populations, but we're starting to get sort of far-fetched now. People want to immigrate to the United States more than nearly anywhere else in the world. If we saw a population decline, the U.S. could then open up more immigration. So there you go. Those were the most dour and gloomy scenarios we've ever discussed here. But for you to make the best financial decisions for yourself and your family, you deserve a full 360 degrees of perspective. I don't ever want to make your decisions for you anyway. I want to influence your thinking or give you a new perspective. The next question comes from Felipe in Chicago. He writes, Keith, I love your show. I've listened to a lot of podcasts over the years, and your show has relevant content. You're a relatable host, and your entire format is extremely well put together. Well, my gosh, with praise like that, no wonder I'm answering Felipe from Chicago's question. He goes on to write, what are the pros and cons of investing in a college town or just investing in property close to a college like here in my part of Chicago? Thanks, Felipe. Yeah, Felipe, I think that pros and cons is the right approach here. The short answer is that neighborhood selection and having an excellent property manager are going to be really important here. Neighborhood selection is, of course, of massive importance in your overall success as a real estate investor. A lot of universities have their own housing websites. Using a location-specific search site, like, for example, GatorRentals.com for the University of Florida in Gainesville, that's going to give you a feel for the market and the pricing in a college area. As far as the pros go, colleges in nearby places tend to be lively areas. Colleges are full of young people, and they tend to be highly populated. In this energetic young crowd, that often attracts a number of amenities to an area like stores, restaurants, gyms, entertainment, and even businesses. These features instantly make your near-campus housing even more attractive, and that's regardless of whether the tenants will be students attending the university or not. You're also likely to have climbing, stable rent prices. You won't have to worry about much long-term volatility because housing demand is going to depend strongly on the university staying in business. Well, universities rarely go out of business, nor do they pick up and move, and you're also likely to have a vast pool of prospective tenants. Because universities generally attract thousands of new students every year, your tenant pool is going to be big. And all these students can temporarily inflate the existing population of the area, potentially doubling or maybe even tripling the number of potential renters that you can accommodate. You're also less likely to have vacancy time in one sense because you'll see a relatively constant stream of new people attending school each year. You're going to have that turnover. A new wave of college freshmen are going to trickle in every year. They might even join mid-semester. So you're never going to be far from a fresh influx of potential renters. Less vacancy time means you're going to collect rent more consistently, and resultantly, you'll be more profitable. And then finally, there's appreciation. There's some data out there that shows that the value of property in college town and college areas tends to appreciate better than overall real estate does. So those were the pros of investing in college areas. Now, as for the cons, earlier I said that you're likely going to have less long-term volatility because universities rarely go out of business, but you're going to have short-term volatility. Yes, you'll have that slow season during summer months and other low periods of attendance. You're going to see slow tenant interest. That means you'll have big volatility in your incoming revenue, so make sure you're able to tolerate that. Some student tenants are going to want to stay in the area all year long, but most of them are going to return home during summer or when classes are not in session. And the last one, and it's a big con, is your greater tendency to have property damage. College students are just simply more likely to wreck and abuse your property, from floods to broken windows and worse. So you're often going to want to demand a higher security deposit. Maybe you can get the parents to co-sign, and you're going to want to have excellent management in place on that property. Management matters with any real estate. It matters even more with college area real estate. Now, there's been quite a building boom on American university campuses for decades now. That's been a good trend for those that have invested near colleges in the past. Tucker Carlson weighed in on this recently, so let's listen. This is 2 to 3 minutes in length. This also intersects with how college students have so much student loan debt that it can postpone them from making a down payment for their own first home. I warn you, there is some highly opinionated material here, but he does make some good points about the college experience today.
Haven't been to an American university lately? See it for yourself. Everything is new. There's been a building boom underway for decades on campuses, all of it funded by debt that is destroying a generation of American kids. 100 schools now have endowments of over $1 billion. They are hedge funds with schools attached. What have colleges done with this money? Well, they've hired massive staffs of like-minded people, for one thing. From 1987 to 2012, the number of administrators on college campuses more than doubled. That's far bigger than the increase of actual students going to college. College administrators routinely make six-figure salaries. What exactly do they do for that money? Not a single thing that makes this a better country. College presidents often get seven-figure salaries. Their pay is probably the only thing in America rising as fast as tuition costs. Academic publishers are getting rich from all of this, too, from the debt boom. Prices of textbooks have tripled in the past 20 years. Printing hasn't gotten more expensive. Non-academic books are cheaper now than they were 2 decades ago. But students are a captive market, and they are being exploited ruthlessly. Nobody says a word about it. So to sum up, young people in this country get poorer every year. College administrators, probably the least impressive group in the country, are getting richer at their expense. It's not a law of the universe that this has to happen. It's a product of policy and of the incentives our society has created over time. Right now, the federal government allows young people to take out an almost unlimited amount in student loans. Colleges know this, of course, and they hike their tuition to capture as much of that money as they can. Young people have little choice but to go along with it. Colleges control access to the credentials that we're all convinced are necessary, mandatory, to achieve success in the modern economy. It's a racket. These are the gatekeepers of modern society, and they're ripping off every kid who passes through those gates. What's the solution? Well, here's one. Have colleges co-sign the loans. And why shouldn't they? If you and I enter into a partnership in business and we succeed, we share the rewards. But we also share the risk. If we fail, we're both on the hook for that. That's how honest arrangements work. College loans don't work that way. Colleges get rich no matter what happens to the kids. Kids are on their own. If students get a degree and a decent job and repay their loans, that's great. But if they drop out of college or their degrees turn out to be worthless, as so many are, and they can't repay what they have borrowed, so what? The college doesn't care. They've got no stake in the outcome. Colleges get all of the benefit and none of the risk. That is the definition of a scam. It's amazing it could even be legal. It should not be legal.
Tucker Carlson there, mincing no words. Get Rich Education's business developer, John Collins, is sometimes behind the scenes here. On an upcoming show, John is going to come out front and be on the microphone with me. You might remember when John was last here, he quit his day job, not because he built real estate financial freedom, but because he was just simply sick of his job. He quit and had zero plan except to be happy because he quit his job. In 2 weeks, he's going to tell us what he's been up to, and you're going to learn a lot of real estate investing lessons there. If you want your listener question read on air, well, we get a ton of them, so I can't guarantee that I can pick yours. You can submit your question at info@getricheducation.com. More listener questions and details on you and I meeting at our upcoming GRE Tampa real estate field trip straight ahead on Get Rich Education.
Would you like to know the easiest way to create wealth and passive income with real estate? This is Marco Santarelli with Norada Real Estate Investments. Now you can access the best deals without the stress or hassle of having to find, renovate, or manage those properties. We save you time by providing you with passive income investment properties in some of the best U.S. markets. Learn more by downloading your free copy of The Ultimate Guide to Passive Real Estate Investing. There's no obligation and nothing to buy. Simply visit passiverealestateguide.com and get your free copy today. That's passiverealestateguide.com.
MC Lobsher is the host of the Cash Flow Ninja podcast and president of Producers Wealth. He is on a mission to help you achieve financial independence and freedom as soon as possible. He achieves this by integrating the infinite banking concept with real estate investments to increase your returns and recapture cash flow that you are not even aware of that you're losing. MC shares the #1 strategy of investors in his holistic wealth creation course at yourownbankingsystem.com. For a real estate investor like you seeking an income property loan, go to Ridge Lending Group, NMLS 42056. Over the years, you've heard President Chaley Ridge generously devote her time to you here on the show as a guest. Ridge provides investment property loans in most U.S. states, and you're going to find out how they've helped more people realize their dreams of real estate financial freedom than any other mortgage lender in the entire nation when you get started at ridgelendinggroup.com.
This is Get Rich Education's business developer, John Collins, and you're listening to Get Rich Education with my friend, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. If you like the material here on the show, chances are that you're going to get some good value from my newsletter. You can get it at getricheducation.com. In fact, you can get both my free ebook and free newsletter, all with just one opt-in at getricheducation.com. The next question comes from Kendra in Aurora, Colorado. She asks, Keith, I'm about to buy my first property from Mid-South Homebuyers in Memphis, Tennessee that I found through your provider network at greturnkey.com. I think I'm barely going to have enough to cover the closing costs, and I found out that the cost of the pre-purchase property inspection is optional. Do you think this is a great way to save on closing costs? Kendra. Okay, thanks for the question, Kendra, but this is an easy answer. Always get the home inspection, even if it's new construction property. This is cheap insurance for you. An inspection usually costs about $400 or less for a single-family income property, and it can help you discover anything from more serious problems like a foundation issue or a lot of mildew or termites, or easier fixes that the seller should make for you like having GFCI electrical outlets near faucets. Now, the inspector takes a couple hours to walk the home. You usually won't be there with him since you live out of the area, Kendra, and he compiles his findings in an inspection report that he'll email to you. The report will have dozens and dozens of photos inside it. That inspection report will also show a list of recommended repairs that the seller should make. The list is broken into a few parts. The sections of the repair recommendations might be something like health and safety, then a significant deficiencies section, a maintenance item section, and a recommended upgrades section. Little things like nail holes in drywall from a previous tenant, that would not even be listed in the inspection report. And there will always be findings. I talked to one home inspector that had inspected 6,000 homes in his life, and only once in his life did he ever have a property with 0 inspection findings. So they always find something. Now, should each and every inspector finding in the report, does that mean that you have to ask the seller to remedy those, or that you should? The answer is no. Health and safety findings and significant deficiencies findings, yes, you should ask them to take care of those. Once you start looking at maintenance items and upgrades, well, if you ask the seller to do every ticky-tacky little thing like wash the windows and trim the bushes, they might decide that it's easier for them to work with a different buyer. So, in short, when you're requesting that a prospective seller make repair requests, I'd say be bold, but don't be absurd. Like in any profession, not all inspectors are created equal. Some are better than others. At a minimum, be sure that they're ASHI certified, ASHI certified. That stands for American Society of Home Inspectors. Thanks for the question, Kendra. The next question comes from Greg in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. I know where Mechanicsburg is. It's right near the state capital of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, that being the state that I was born, raised, and lived most of my life in. Greg simply asks a one-sentence question. Keith, what do you mean when you say that the scarcity mentality is abundant and the abundance mentality is scarce? Thanks, Greg. What I mean is that the road to a better life is not through cutting down on your expenses. It's by increasing your income. When you cut expenses, you're living a lower quality of life. Well, that's the exact opposite of living well, which is what you really want. Plus, you can only cut so far to the downside, but there is an unlimited opportunity to increase your income. Now, you might delay a little gratification earlier in your life to get liquid and invest, but delayed gratification does not have to be a long-term condition. Most think that it is, and that's the scarcity mentality. Let me give you some real-life examples. The first example of scarcity thinking is that whole notion of I want to be debt-free. But look, no one shrinks their way to wealth. Who ever got rich by retiring their mortgage or paying off their car loan? No one ever. One acquires wealth by building many durable passive income streams. In fact, one often embraces good debt in order to do this. That's why the abundant phrase is financial freedom and not debt freedom. Here, live below your means is a scarcity phrase, and the counterpart abundant phrase is expand your means. What about when it comes to entertaining yourself? You could go watch men's fast-pitch softball at the Moose Lodge for free for the rest of your life. Oh, geez. How fun does that sound? Or instead, you could secure some big investment wins and attend the NBA Finals in person and get inspired and have some great memories. Scarcity says something like, let's build a budget and stick to it. But abundance says, instead, let's make a cash flow statement and build that. Budget implies scrimping, saving, frugality, and cutting back. And that denigrated quality of life is time that you're never going to be able to replenish. So instead, build multiple income streams and increase that passive cash flow. So thanks for asking about that, Greg from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. That's really foundational. And if anyone just tells you, oh, that stuff's just mental, I would contend that mental is huge. It all starts in the mind. So I don't like to diminish the importance of mentality by saying that something is just mental. If it's mental, it's substantial. In fact, the first ever episode of this show, released October 10th, 2014, is titled Your Abundance Mindset. That's what we talk about in the first episode. That's how important and foundational this all is. So that's all for the listener questions portion of the show. I'd like to give you a personal invitation to come meet up with me. At our meetup, we can also look at one of America's top real estate investment markets together in Tampa Bay, Florida on our Tampa real estate field trip October 10th to 12th, 2019. That's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. From listening to the show, you know how we've discussed that new residents have been flocking to Florida and Tampa for decades with its warm climate, low cost of living, and zero state income tax. The Tampa-St. Petersburg area has good access to some of the nation's best beaches, and Florida is a landlord-friendly state. Enjoy an opening night meet and greet with me and fellow Get Rich Education listeners just like you, classroom instruction directly from me and my Tampa team, and then finally, on the last day, Saturday, we'll tour those exact investor-advantaged neighborhoods and walk through cash-flowing property. I'll even treat you to lunch. There are no properties for sale on the tour. If you're interested, you can contact the provider later. Get all the details at realestatefieldtrip.com. That page ought to be up and ready by now. I want you to come. I want to meet you and hear about your real estate portfolio and your story. Or maybe you don't have a real estate portfolio yet and you're looking to start one in Tampa or somewhere else. And since the trip is in early to mid-October, depending on where you live, it might be a great way to sort of extend your summer in sunny and warm Florida. You could hang around after the tour as well. There are all the Tampa attractions like Busch Gardens and the Florida Aquarium and Adventure Island, which is an outdoor water theme park, or just go hang out on the beach. And then Disney World is just a 90-minute drive from Tampa. The tour starts Thursday night and ends Saturday afternoon. It's Get Rich Education's Tampa field trip, October 10th to 12th. Space is limited, and I really mean that. And when it's gone, it's gone. We've even kept the event cost down for you. You know that I like to end the show here with something actionable for you that's really going to improve your life, and I'm thrilled to leave you with this one. So get all the details and register for the event at realestatefieldtrip.com. I look forward to meeting you personally in terrific Tampa. Get started at realestatefieldtrip.com. Until next week, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
Countless investors get killed on their long-term maintenance costs in their rental property portfolio, but that's far less likely when you buy brand new construction. Let me tell you about my friends at JWB Real Estate Capital in Jacksonville, Florida. They pioneered the build-to-rent model that allows clients like you to invest in new construction, turnkey rental property. That's why JWB has been featured on the front page of the Wall Street Journal and other national media. If you want new construction rental properties in your portfolio, talk to JWB. Give them a call at 904-677-6777 or visit them at newconstructionturnkey.com. The preceding program was brought to you by your home for wealth building, GetRichEducation.com.